eyeballs. I'm going to choose a colour of paper. Oh, first eyeball. That means we're live, we're working. Choose the colour of paper you want for doing this activity. Good morning, everyone. Hello. How are you all today? I hope you've all had a really nice weekend. Happy Tuesday. Very foggy out there today. Mrs. Livingston said to Harris this morning that there was snow with her, but we don't have any snow.
We do?
No, not any snow. Anyway, I hope you're all well today. We've got a really, really nice lesson today. Good morning, Grace. Good morning, Kate. It's a bit of a delayed lesson, so I tried to do something Scottish this week just because if we were in school this week we would be doing our Burns recitals, so all of our lessons this week will have a nice Scottish slant to them. So today we're going to create these origami little kilts, but before we can do that we're going to design our own tartan. So Alex, I've asked you quite a few times now to choose the paper that you want. So what you'll need resource-wise, first of all, is you'll need a piece of paper. Now it's up to you what colour or size you go with. In the classroom I would always give the boys and girls a coloured piece of paper because then they have a base colour there already. So even if they just do a few lines, it already looks like a tartan. But if you've only got white paper, that's totally fine. I wrote on the instructions that A4, hi Jackson, A4 is probably perfect for this, but we've gone a little bit bigger today just so that it's easier for me to show you what you're doing. Okay, so this is just slightly bigger than A4. So you need a piece of paper, you will need a ruler, that's a very important thing, or if you don't have a ruler, just something with a straight edge, so even like the edge of like a chopping board or something that's got a straight edge to it. It doesn't need to have numbers or anything. So you need that, and you'll also need something to create your lines with. Now, the example that I've got in the background here, we painted, and we also used some chalk pens with. And I love, hello, hi Upper Hub. Oh, I miss you all. I'm getting a bit emotional. I miss you all. I hope you're all well. Oh, boys and girls are watching me in the hub. I hope you've got all your resources ready. So this one was created with paint and with some chalk pens. But because we have to fold it later on, you don't really want it to be wet. So if you want to paint it, fab. But paint it, leave it to dry, and then come back and watch the rest of the video later. Ideally what you want is you want to use something that won't be wet, so not like the chalk pens or anything like that. We're just going to use some crayons because they give a nice overlap, and also some Sharpies as well. But anything you want to use, go with it. You don't need to have anything fancy. So you need a ruler, you need a piece of paper, and you need something to draw with. This is just for creating the tartan part, just now. Later on you'll need a few extra bits and bobs, but we'll talk about that later on. So, to get started, I printed this off, put this up on the screen yesterday I think it was, some examples to inspire you. So these are just little swatches of tartan. So before we get started, I think it's really, really, really important to discuss the way that the tartan is designed. So there's a few wee words that we use when we're talking about tartan. The first word is set, S-E-T-T, not a single T, a double T. So the set, that is the design that runs throughout the tartan. So the set repeats itself. So what you want to do first of all is you want to design your set. Now something else that happens with the set, it's symmetrical. So a lot of S words getting thrown at you right now. So you've got a symmetrical set. That then repeats itself horizontally and vertically across the tartan. So you end up with this crisscross effect. On this one here you've got a diagonal one. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to design our set, and we want it to be symmetrical. So choose a colour. Don't go too crazy with the colours, maybe 6 maximum. Let's go with this. So I'm going to grab, Alex, can you actually pass me over a couple of crayons? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the middle of my page. We're not going to go left to right or right to left. We're actually going to find the centre of our page. Alex, I've got a ruler. Two rulers. So choose a colour that you would like to appear in the middle of your tartan. Now this is quite important because this is going to appear again and again. So make sure you've chosen something you're actually quite keen on. So I'm going to go with this purple. Purple today. And I'm just going to have a line that runs right down the middle of my paper. Now if you don't know how to get it perfectly centred, get the edge of your ruler and place it up against the top edge of that paper, and that way you know you've got a 90-degree angle there. Okay, so you're looking for a perfect line just running down the middle. Okay, then choose a different colour. Now it's up to you, or stick with the same one. On either side of that line, you're then going to create your second line. Now try and keep the distance the same when it comes to the symmetrical aspect of this. Okay, so I'm going to make this one thicker. I'm going to colour this in. Okay, so this is me just designing my symmetrical set. I hear lots of scribbly noises over there. Okay? So we've got that distance above there. So what we're now going to do is, to make that symmetrical, have the same thing happening on the right hand side of that. So I was going to be really accurate about that. I would measure it as 1 centimetre, so just roughly about 1 centimetre. I'm going to have another line. Use the edge of your ruler. Try and keep that symmetrical, so have it right up against the edge of the paper, and try and keep it the same thickness this time round. And if things go a little bit squint, if things go a bit bumpy, if you hit a bump in the table or something like that, don't worry about it. Eventually you're going to be folding your tartan, so you won't see a lot of the lines and they will look quite bumpy. Also, in tartan it's a fabric, so the fabric won't be perfectly straight when you're actually wearing it. It will have creases in it and bumps and folds and all the rest of it. Okay, so I'm just going to, for a wee bit more interest, next to my orange, I'm just going to have another line in there. Sometimes when I'm doing things like this, I just like to pick a random crayon. I don't even like to really think about what I'm doing. Sometimes the variety that you get from doing something like that is quite surprising, and it helps you choose colours that you wouldn't normally choose. Okay, so I'm just going to do that next to there. I like to use crayons for doing this, because when you overlap them, you get the strength and colour. But if you want to go over Sharpies, that's up to you, or pencils, or just whatever you've got really. It honestly doesn't matter. Okay, so you see how that's symmetrical. So we've got the blue in the middle, then we've got a space which is the blue paper, then we've got the orange, the peach, the peach. And just to make it a bit more interesting, I'm just going to put one more line. What am I using, Jackson? These are just crayons, twistable crayons. I love them. We keep them away from Mirren, don't we? Because she breaks them, she snaps them. They're like crayons, but they've got a plastic edge to them, and they're twistable, so they twist up so you can get them longer. I've got my glasses on today, so I can read all the comments, and it's a little bit closer to where it should normally be. I forgot to say a big hello to you also. Hello, everybody. If anyone is new, hello, nice to see you. I'm Mrs. C, and this is Alex, my big boy. Hi. Hi. He's 10. He's in P6. Okay, so we have got my set. That's the set. Okay, now you'll need to remember that design. So what we're going to do now is we've got it going across the middle. We're now going to have it going across horizontally. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to crisscross that over. This is when it starts to get a little bit confusing. So once you've designed your set, don't forget what it looks like. And if you need to move your ruler along, just place it up, but just try and keep it as straight as you can. Okay, this is when we start to crisscross over, and the lines where they crisscross over, you end up with a deeper shade of that colour. So like what a genuine tartan would do. If you look at tartan really, really closely, the lines have always got tiny, tiny little separations where they've been stitched, where they've been woven. And when you overlap them, the colour becomes deeper. I'm not an expert weaver, by the way. That along a little bit. This is quite, I've not really got a lot to say to you when I'm doing this today, so just, you know, if I go quiet, don't think I've forgotten about you or I'm lagging. I will remember you're there. I maybe should have had one of these prepared. Now, Alex has forgotten what I've said, and he's not designed a set. All he's done now is done stripes over the place, so I hope you don't end up making this a bit confusing for you. And the reason we're starting in the middle is so that we end up with the most design in the middle. If you started there and then built your way across, sometimes it gets a little bit confusing and you forget where you are in your design. I'm just going to keep going across. And by the way, you don't have to use a ruler for this. And you don't have to have straight lines. So that's it starting to build up. So next to the orange, I then had the peach. So a great idea to keep your crayons beside you. Don't go and put them back in the box so you're searching for ages trying to find that exact crayon. And we're not just doing a random design. So it's really important that you remember your set and you remember to repeat it. Because it is tartan or cream, it's not just a random stripy pattern. Over and then don't forget I've got that pulling now on either side of that as well. Try and keep the spaces out. Yep. And your crisscross over. Yeah. So Alex has started, as I said earlier, I didn't really listen to you so much, but he's got a yellow stripe there next to the orange. So for his next line, he then has to remember about the symmetrical aspect of this. So you have to go yellow there, and then you would also have to have yellow there, and yellow there, and yellow there, and yellow there. And then you need to turn it on the side and you need to have the orange and then the yellow. Okay? But you know all this because last week you created these fantastic Tartan silhouette pictures that I've got still sitting up there for Mrs. Hardy.
It's actually quite rubbish.
It wasn't quite rubbish, it was excellent. It was brilliant. I don't have artwork all over my house for my children. People think I should, but I don't. So the fact that you have got your picture sitting up there right now means that it's very special. That space is quite large compared to that, so you really should be measuring a bit better. Right, so we have got woven tartan now, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to need to keep repeating the design now. So it's up to you. Is this now going to be symmetrical or are you going to put another bit of purple in there? So on either side of that I'm going to go for the purple. So I'm going to go one line and I'm going to go one line. Remember to keep your ruler going up at the top of the paper, that way it'll keep straight. And then because it's repeating now, you're not doing the symmetrical thing anymore. So I'm repeating the whole process. So I will then have to go for peach. And remember it's overlapping. And then the orange. Try and keep the same thickness. Come on, because I'm going to be waiting on you. You need to keep going, don't just overlapping. Those lines, don't stop. Sometimes boys are going to like to stop when they see the line because they think, oh, I better stop. No, keep going, overlap, and then we've got that middle line in there. And don't forget it's symmetrical now. So it then goes orange, orange, so the tartan has started to repeat and it overlaps and it's still symmetrical. Okay, so these are my sets. So I've got set, set, set. Right, I'm going to keep going with this. And I'm assuming that you're still going with it as well until it's finished. So my videos are very, very different to other people's videos that are put on YouTube because normally they are just stills of what they've been doing and a little bit of talking and then another speed up. Mine are pretty live, so anything can happen. Doorbells can go, cats can come in, 3-year-olds can come in. But I always like to work out with Alex because he gives me an idea of how you're getting on at home. I can glance glance over him and I can see that he's having a problem with something, and that reminds me of something that I haven't said. And yeah, sometimes I like to read the comments when we're going as well, so if there's any problems at home. And it also is in real time, so I can Now, don't, as you get to the edge of the paper, don't think, oh, I'm running out of paper, I must squeeze in another part. No, no, no. Imagine that the paper kept going. So don't try now and think, oh, I've only got a tiny, tiny little space left. I'm going to bring my purple line in closer just so that I can get another peach and another orange. Just keep going. Imagine that this was a big, massive reel of fabric. So it's going to keep going. The design's going to keep going and going and going. So I'm just going to purple line now. And I have now run out of space. How are you getting on over there?
Good.
Yeah?
Kind of, yeah.
What's your tartan going to be called?
Rubbish tartan.
The rubbish.
Made by a complete idiot.
Get one more bit of peach in there. And then I've got my orange to go in. You okay? How's your set? You've not gotten confused with what you're doing? No, you're fine. Another good way of doing this is with the crayons. You can layer them. So you could have a really, really big, chunky line that was peach or yellow, and then you could actually put that colour on top of it. Okay, so that's another good way of doing it. So I'm nearly finished. I've just got to do a few more lines that go horizontally across, and then that's my tartan finished. So don't forget this repeating aspect. It does get a little bit confusing towards the end. And by the way, I did it just to show you how it was going to come together by doing horizontal and then vertical. You are more than welcome just to do all the horizontal lines and then flip it over and do all the vertical lines. It's totally up to you the way that you design this and put it together. But just don't forget that all you're doing is you're designing your set first, and then that's what repeats. It does get a bit confusing as time goes on. You kind of forget where you are with it, so always take time just to look and double check that you're going down the right route. Sometimes if you keep your head down for too long, you forget where you are with things. And that's when you're drawing anything. If you're sketching, if you're painting, it's really important that you always take the time to stop and look at what you're doing. I guess that's like if you're doing anything. If you're writing, it's important to sometimes read over what you've written. If you're doing math work, make sure that you've read the question a couple of times. I guess it's just like anything. Always just double check. Right, I am just about there. Now for next steps, because some of you might be finished at home and you might just be sitting twiddling your thumbs right now waiting on me to hurry up. For next steps, you will need, I put stapler on the list. Make sure your staple works first. I ran around last night trying to find staples to filming. I thought I had loads and then I realised I didn't. If you don't have a stapler, paper clips will work just as well. And in fact, if you are a little person right now, not working with mummy and daddy and there's no adult there to help you with the stapler, a paper clip might be the safer option actually. And the good thing is with a paper clip you can move it again. I don't use them in the classroom because we need a lot of them. Because you'll need two. If you imagine, most of our classes in Dunbarney have got about nearly 30 in them. That's a lot of paper clips per lesson. I like that, and I wouldn't have chosen these colours normally. Can't wait to see what you've all been coming up with today again. So remember, if you have got a photo at the end of this, please send it to me. so that we can stick a wee folder on the page so that everyone can have a look. And as per usual as well, this lesson is live just now, but I know a lot of you like to catch up later on when you've got more time, or when you can fast forward all the boring bits. So it'll be on the YouTube page later as well, and it will be on this page as well for you to catch up later. And I know, Alex, you have got a live lesson at... Do you have a live lesson at 1:15 today? You don't know? I think it is. So you need to remember that you've got that. So, I mean, life's busy at the minute, isn't it, boys and girls? We've always got loads going on, so don't worry if you haven't been able to join in. It'll be posted later. Tomorrow, for the smaller boys and girls out there, but not necessarily the smaller boys and girls, if you're bigger you can join in as well. We're actually going to do a woven lesson, so it's just using paper, and it doesn't have to be nice coloured paper. You know, you could, if you want to get really creative with it, you could use a bit of wallpaper or a bit of gift wrap or a magazine or a newsprint. It doesn't always have to be really nice paper for doing some of these activities. And in fact, for doing this, you could easily have used paper that you dripped out of a book or a magazine and then you were drawn on top of it. I've got a lovely lesson I like to do with the upper schools where we do recycled tartans, where we use crisp packets and just anything really, and we weave using things like that. It's like a create your own modern day tartan. I've seen tartan made out of like tin. There's a lovely lady on George Street, I'm sure she does like an iron brew. She's got an iron brew tartan that she's done once upon a time. Right, you go. Finished. Whew. Tired. How are you getting on? Right, you just need to get a set going across the way and then you are done. So try and do that fast please, because I'm going to start moving on with this. Okay. Right, just going to let Alex finish that off. And while he's doing that, I'm going to speak to you a little bit about what's happening next. So, I guess crayons are also really, really good. Jackson was asking me earlier why I'm using crayons and what they are. Hi Abby, nice to see you. I like using crayons in the class because there's nothing worse than using pens and then they smudge when you lift up the ruler. But not only that, when your hand's on them, you get the ink on your arm and then you end up spreading it, printing it all over the paper. So crayons are great for that because that doesn't happen. And they're waxy, so they don't smudge. But the most important reason I like to do them is because of the overlap that they create, like a real tartan would have. Right, next what we're going to do is we are going to start to make the little kilt. So, it involves quite a lot of folding, but the important thing with this is that you don't fold right across the paper. You want to have a flat section in the middle. So we're actually going to do some folding from either side of our tartan. Now the next important thing that you do is that you know the direction that I would like to have your tartan is. This is landscape, this is portrait. I don't want you to fold it portrait. Okay, I want you to fold it so that the paper is landscape. So what we're going to do first of all is we're actually going to turn our tartan on its tummy, so the design's underneath. And then I want you to think about, actually you guys have probably not got as big fingers as me, so you think of your thumb. I'm going to use my finger. What I want you to do at either side of your landscape piece of paper with it turned on its tummy, I want you to fold inwards about your thumb, my finger width. Now it's not perfect, it really, really doesn't matter. Okay, if it's slightly thinner or slightly bigger, but I just want you to have a fold. So you'll see part of your design has flipped over. Okay, and you're going to do that on both sides. Both sides. So I'm going to show you that again. So you're just going to bring the paper over and it should be my thumb width, your finger width. If you find this tricky, because I've got a feeling Alex will find this tricky in a second, get someone to help you. So in the classroom, if you're in the hub right now, maybe your learning partner, I don't know if you're having learning partners in the hubs, but if we're in the classroom now, you would get your partner to kind of help you with this a little bit, because it gets quite fiddly at the beginning. But you should all manage, because you're quite big now, some of you. Right, are you finished yet?
No.
Perfectionist. Those of you that have been tuning in will know that Alex is a bit perfectionist. Right, so we've got either side folded in,
Like 6 colours.
and it's a bit thin. Well, I said maximum 6. Maximum 6, including the paper, so I've got 4. You don't have to have 6. Right, so we've got that. Now what we're going to do is turn it back over again. So this time the design's facing you. And either side now, I'm just going to bring that fold in. Now there's no measuring with your thumbs this time, because you've already got the fold coming back at you. So you're just going to fold that down, but stop when you see the edge of your design, because you want the folds to be the same distance, the same width. Okay, so see how that's starting to fold together. You can see that hole, but that opens up. Now we're not wrapping it, we're not rolling it. You're going back and forward, because we're bringing this back on itself. And at home you're probably seeing now that it's starting to spring up a little bit on either side. Turn it back over on its tummy, and then take the edges, and you'll see the edge of the folds that you've just created. When you see them, gently press it down. And you're looking for a really nice folding here, so run your finger along those folds, along those creases. Okay, so you're bringing it back. When you see the pile of paper, you're going to have a really, really nice crease. You see how that's starting to spring up? Okay, right, we're just going to do a few more of these on either side. One more. So I'm going to aim to do 5 folds, but I don't know how big your paper is at home. But 5 folds will be enough for me on either side. Okay, so look a bit like that. It'll be like a bit like a spring. We call this a concertina fold. Okay, right. So you know anything else you can get yours done? I'm assuming that you're all folding at home and you're all okay, and that the tempo's okay. Right. Okay, right you. Let's get these boxes of pens and crayons out of the way. Well, you're going to be done because we need to get going, and you've got a lesson in 15 minutes. You are missing that green going across the way, aren't you? Green there in the middle. Okay. Right, what you'll need to do next is this is when you'll get your paper clip or your stapler, and you'll either staple the top of that paper, not both ends of it. You don't want to close it at the bottom, so just a staple at the top. And can I just remind you again, when you're folding, you're flipping it, folding it, flipping it, folding it, flipping it, folding it. So we stay in the classroom, we do a rhyme, we go flip, fold, flip, fold, flip, fold. So run that through your head as you're doing it. Don't just go fold, 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 because then it'll just end up being a big roll. Okay, so flip the paper, fold, flip the paper, fold, flip the paper, fold, and make sure that the folds are the same thickness every time. So if they get thinner and thinner and thinner, it'll be hard to get a staple in. If they get chunkier and chunkier and chunkier, it'll just end up being a big pile of folded paper. So at this point, I'm just going to get my staple now. I'm going to put a wee staple in at the top. This is when you might need an adult helper, or if you've got a paper clip, perfect. That will just hold that in place. Okay. Now some of you might have ended up with this bit being flat in the middle. Okay. It worries me that I've got 10% battery. Some of you might have ended up with that flat bit in the middle. That's okay, but you want to ideally have it so that the kilt's actually sticking out a little bit. It's not got the flat bit like that. If you have got that, do one more fold on either side and that will fix it. How do you fold again? Please tell us. Okay, I'm going to Jackson because Alex has finished finally his Tartan. I'm going to show you what Alex is. Right, well I need to show Jackson how to do this, so give me the paper please. Yes. No. Okay, so you turn the design over on its tummy. Okay? And then one thumb width, you bring in a piece of paper and then you give it a nice crease. Like that. And do that on both sides. Or if you want to do one side first and then do the other side, do it. Then you flip the paper, bring inside and fold again. And it's the same distance every time. Flip the paper, and then you do a fold, and we're going to do this 5 times, so that's 3, 4 and 5. So 5 flip folds, and then Alex would staple that. Okay? So turn the design over on its tummy, fold it in a finger width, flip the paper, fold it in again, flip, fold, flip, fold, flip, fold, staple. 5 times. I think you're done. I think you're being a perfectionist with this. Right, that's us nearly done with half an hour, so we better get rid of one. So you have hopefully got this, and I hope you got it okay. And what we do next is, as per usual with these lessons, I show you how to do something, and then when it comes to the creative aspect, you just go away and do it. You're at home. Use whatever you've got home to do this. So, some ideas, bless you, Mr. Bob. Some ideas that you could use at home. Now, I said that you could have string, so you could glue, or wool. You could glue some wool or string to create your sporran, which is going to go down here at the bottom. We're going to make a belt. Now, I've just got some strips of black paper for my belt. If you want to use ribbon, or if you want to use, if you even want to cut one out of a catalogue, you can go with that. You can use whatever you want. For the buckle of the belt, I've got some gold and silver paper there. You could use tin foil. You could use, this is quite naughty, Niven's still eating her way through her chocolate coins, so you could have one of the chocolate coins there. You could use whatever you want. So on my one that I designed at home, we did this last night, I just cut a bit of black paper. So while he's finishing off, I may as well just do my second example. So I'm just going to cut a long strip of paper. I'm going to get some glue. So these are all finishing touches. So this is playing on the instruction list. I've got optional extras. This isn't, you don't have to have all this. Okay, so I've just stuck that onto the front. I like to do belts because it wraps up the top and it covers up the staple. And then I wrap it around the top, fold it in there, fold it in there. Good, Jamie. Could you make sure you do nice folds? So run your finger along the creases. Yeah, sure. So run your finger along the creases. It ends up being nice and crisp. That's my finger, that's your whole hand. We need to get a wider lens camera so that I can show everyone what you get up to when you're on camera. You'll often find that I start jiggling because I look at him and he makes funny faces at me. So right, so the belt, it looks a bit of a mess on the back, but nobody's going to see the back, okay? But on the front, that belt now is wrapped around the top, so you cover up your staple, you won't see it anymore, and it'll look really, really neat and tidy. You can then get a bit of gold paper or silver paper to create your buckle. I've got some silver card here. Sharpies are brilliant for drawing on top of metallics. So often if you create a buckle and then you try and draw on top of a pencil, it won't show up. Or a normal pen just wipes off again. But you can use Sharpies. Right. You've folded it the whole way and not left a flat bit in the middle. Stapler like this. Where's the stapler? Alex got a wee bit foldy crazy there and didn't leave a bit in the middle. So you've done one side, but you've not done the other side properly, so you need to go back. That goes on its tummy. Fold. Flip. Fold. Flip. Do you remember how many times I'm doing this? Don't keep folding the whole way across, and don't forget to do one side then the other side. Okay, right, so that's his done. Looking cool. Right, you can design that now. Okay, so we've got my belt done, my buckle done. So yeah, I've already cut the cardboard. Really glue. And then you can always get a sporran kilts don't have pockets. So for a man, if they're at a wedding or christening, it's an item. Because where do they put their phone or where do they put their wallet? So they carry things like sporrans. Yeah, you'll need glue if you want to stick this on. Just a Pritt stick glue and scissors. I should have said this all at the beginning, but because it's the decoration part, Jackson, you can go and do this in your own speed and in your own time. But yeah, you'll need glue, scissors. I've got a piece of black paper, some silver paper. And for drawing the sporran, it's really, really easy. Get a black Sharpie, or if you want to glue a bit of thread or a bit of black wool to make it a bit more three-dimensional, you can. So sporrans are really important. So you need to have a sporran that goes from this. So we're going to just draw some lines in there. Okay, make them a bit chunkier actually. And then with my black paper I've got left over, there's silver card, your sweetheart, for your buckle. It's right on your side there. Okay, so next up what we're going to need is the black part. What are you looking for? Yeah, go for it. Just to help me with my measurement a little bit, I'm just going to place that down there, and to get it looking... Oh, let's get scissors. So now at this point I would just tear it. Sporran. Fringe it. So you could fringe it with some scissors. You still got scissors, I think. Usually my favourite when you finish things, can you put them back in the middle of the table? Because I find it hard to reach over there. Thank you. Okay, so sporran done as well. Now, the one that I did last night, I got a little bit carried away. I made these little legs that are sticking out the bottom. Again, the decoration part you don't have to do, but if you want to do that, it's really, really straightforward. Just get some pink paper. You want them to be symmetrical. So what I would do is I would fold your paper in half and also check the size of them, so I actually have it lined up next to the bottom of the kilt, and just draw. It sounds ridiculous, but just draw some lines, a knobbly knee shape, and then a line. So just draw something like that, and then cut those out. But because you've got your paper folded in half, you then will end up with two for the price of one, or buy one get one free. And then you can stick those on the bottom of your kilt. We don't normally do this in class just because this is normally a 2-week lesson in class, so we would do the tartan 1 week because that does take quite a while in class. That takes one lesson, and then we would make the kilts the second week. So if you're a teacher and you're watching this just now, this is probably doing a 2-week lesson. And you could make them bigger. You don't need to make them the size, you could make massive ones as well, so you could make A3 ones if you wanted to. So I've got the legs on the bottom, and then I would just do some wee shoes or socks. So they're hanging out the bottom, a bit skinny actually. Skinny legs. Skinny legs. And then you need your boots as well, which again I would do with black paper. Fold it in half so that you've got two pieces. Okay, measure it, so actually look at the legs before you draw them. Before you draw something, just double check that that size is going to be right. It saves a lot of effort. I have 2 pairs of scissors today. And then cut them out. Okay, so, what's that? 40 minutes, perfect. I hope that's been okay for you all. He's not got any shoes yet, but I'm going to finish that off and sit them on in a minute. I hope that's been okay for you all, and you've enjoyed it. If you've got any questions or any things that you would like to say about the lesson, please let me know in the comments bar, or just private message me. Don't forget to send me your finished examples so we can make a nice big folder. And yeah, thank you for everything. Tomorrow will be a paper woven exercise. You need a couple of sheets of paper for that. Glue if you want it to be a permanent fixture, but you don't have to have glue. And that's all you need. Now think outside the box, you don't have to use plain paper, you can use anything that you want. Thank you for everything. And next week we're going to be celebrating Chinese New Year. So
Yay.
we're going to be,
Why is it?
again we're going to be folding a lot of paper next week, so it's going to build on those skills that you've just learned from doing the concertina folding. So we're going to be making some little Chinese dragon puppets. So it'll be a nice one next week.
I'm trading that.
Right, thank you for everything. I'm going to switch you all off there. I always have to reach forward for